Welcome to Thrive While Loving an Addict. I'm KL Wells, and I am very excited. I'm joined by Dr. Janelle Martin, and she's out of Houston, which is a different part of the country than I'm living in. And she is a functional medicine doctor and a counselor. And through her journey, her life completely transformed. And I'm really interested about that because you leaned into the transformation that was the gift embedded in the journey with your daughter. So if you could kind of start at the origins of kind of the wake up to what was happening with your daughter, and then your kind of movement in the direction of your own kind of wake up to, oh, I'm in recovery too.
Yeah, mine was very slow. I was very clueless. I never had any experience with drugs in my family or anywhere else, not even through school or college. So I was really ignorant about all of it. I mean, obviously, I knew there were drugs around, and I did make my kids watch the show Intervention because it was like watching a train wreck. And I hoped that that would be enough to show them that drugs are bad. And so that's about it for me. But I have to back up to kind of give you a little bit of background as to kind of how this came to be in our lives. I divorced my kid's dad. I have two children. My son is 2 years older than my daughter. And I divorced their dad when they were, it was final when they were 6 and 4. So she was really little. They were both little, but she was,
Right.
doesn't really remember us really being together. But I divorced him because he had become abusive and controlling, and it was a really toxic environment. And it had gotten to the point where I looked at my daughter and thought, I can't have this be normal for her. She can't grow up thinking that this is okay. I don't want
Right.
that kind of thing for her. So she was kind of my reason for moving on with my life, even though it was absolutely not an easy thing to get a divorce and be a single mom and go through. I mean, he fought me for custody. He tried to get my parents to testify that I was an unfit mother at the time. He was telling all kinds of lies and stories about me. And it was really, really awful. It was not a place I thought I would ever find myself. So that's kind of
Yeah.
how it started. We got along okay for a few years, but then I met somebody that I ended up marrying in 2008. So Reagan would have been 8 years old at that point. And as soon as I brought another man into the picture, not only did my ex-husband move out of state for a job opportunity, he decided that it would never be okay with him that another man be there for his kids. And so he set out to make sure that the children didn't have a relationship with him, but also to make sure really that they didn't like me either. And a
Wow.
lot of this happened, it was very underhanded, as it usually is.
Mhm.
I didn't know exactly what was happening. I knew something was happening because you could just tell when the kids would come back from visits. Not necessarily my daughter, Reagan, but her brother especially would be very difficult to transition between homes.
Mhm.
So I knew something was up, and that was kind of where it started. Now, come to find out, I mean, he was really actively
Sabotaging.
sabotaging us and me and using them, like sitting them down and having them write out the reasons they don't like their mom or don't want to live with their mom, like things like that.
Yeah.
Really overt things. So she
Mhm.
was dealing with that. They were both dealing with that. And they dealt with it in completely different ways. It really felt more like it was a thing for her brother. But when my ex husband sued me for custody when my son turned 15. So she would have been 13. She would have been eighth grade. And that's when it really came to light that all of this really was revolving around her brother and she was collateral damage. She really understood that it wasn't about her, that she felt like nobody loved her, nobody cared about her, it was
Wow.
always about her brother. And that was really devastating. Of course, I could see that then because she would ask me, why doesn't my dad love me as much as my brother? I didn't have an answer for that. I can't answer for him. I know that he loves his daughter, but it's not manifesting well at this
Yeah.
point, and it was just a giant mess. And then to back up, I didn't know this at the time either, but when she was young, like 4 and 5 years old, and she would go visit her dad, there was a neighbor who had a teenage son who had sexually abused her when she would go there. Now, she never told anyone this. So this was from the age of 5, and now this is happening with her dad. And then through the custody case, he lost
Sad.
The kids stayed here. And then my daughter became the enemy. It was because of her, supposedly, she didn't go along with the plan. So she was abused by both her dad and her brother and treated like a second-rate citizen.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, her whole world just turned against her. And I could see that. I knew that that was happening. We were all old enough to understand and see. And I worked really hard at trying to get her brother to at least stop being so ugly and mean to her. A lot of it happened when I wasn't around. So
Sure.
she definitely felt like nobody cared about her, that she was just, she was worthless and nothing.
Right.
And when he graduated high school, he moved to live with his dad and cut off contact with me. Even through all of it, her brother was always her person. And once he was gone, she really struggled even more. And
Yeah.
so the first time that she went out with friends or did something with friends and tried marijuana, she realized, I mean, immediately that it took the pain away. All the pain that she had been carrying with her completely disintegrated immediately. And she was literally hooked that first time. And she wanted it all the time and whatever it took. And
Mhm.
I did not know any of that was happening. Kind of found that out really more specifics of it when we started writing the book. I still learned things at that maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So she found drugs. That became her thing. And she was probably 16 at the time. I didn't know. I did feel like there was something off with her, but there had been so much happening over the last recent past that kind of chalk it up to just the trauma of all of it. And she never really let on to me that she was suffering.
Yeah.
She hid it pretty well. And I don't know if she thought that that's what I needed from her or if she just needed to do that. I don't really know that. But I do know that her behavior at times made me question, like, something's going on, maybe. But she seemed fine overall. And I really think denial was my friend anyway. So
Mhm. Mhm.
by the right before she turned 17, it was July 4th, was when I was clued in that she was using drugs. And it was from a message through Facebook from a classmate of hers that we had known since both of them were babies, basically.
Mhm.
She had reached out to me and she was concerned for my daughter's drug use, that it had been escalating and that she was hanging around with people that were not particularly awesome.
Mhm.
And she sent me a photograph of my daughter using. So I
Oh, wow.
would not argue that. And I'm
Mm.
grateful now. I mean, it killed me at the time. I felt like I'd been shot and I didn't know what to do or what to think. And I couldn't think really. But had she not sent the picture, I wonder how
Yeah.
long it would have taken me to believe it and to act on it. So I'm so grateful that she did that. But we had, we went home, we had a conversation with my daughter, and she never said she wasn't going to use drugs anymore, but we kind of did one of those things like, you can't do drugs, you can't live here and do drugs. What is it that you need to stop doing this? Kind of.
Mhm.
And she
Mhm.
wanted a dog, and she was sad. She wanted a counselor, and she didn't say she wanted a counselor. She just said she was depressed. So I thought counseling would be a good thing. And then the other thing was is she wanted to change high schools, so we just said, we'll do whatever you want. You
Mhm.
just can't do drugs. So we got her the dog. I found a counselor for her, but I didn't know at the time that there are counselors who know about addiction and there are
Yeah.
who don't. And this
Mhm.
one did not. And my daughter quickly figured that out in the first
Mm.
session. So that was kind of a bust. She ended up going high to the sessions high after
Mhm.
she only went to maybe 4. So that ended, but then she just told us that she was good. She felt better and everything was fine. She didn't end up changing high school. She ended up going back to the same high school for her senior year. But through that fall of the senior year, like I could see that everything about her was changing. She was wearing
Yeah.
baggier clothes. They were dark and drab. She wasn't really bathing. She wasn't washing her hair. It was always in a rat's nest on her head. And I would kid her about looking like a homeless person, like,
Mm.
you have nice clothes. Why do you have to look homeless? And, be a big joke. Oh, mom, whatever, and haha. So did I clue it in that she was using? No,
No.
no,
Mhm.
I didn't. I didn't want to. My husband, he's the stepdad. He was in my ear at times trying to get me to see, and I
Mhm.
really didn't want to hear it from him either, and it would make me angry at him.
Mm. Mhm.
Don't talk about her like that. Yes. So that Christmas, we made it through Christmas, but right after Christmas, I actually caught her in a major lie. She said she was somewhere she wasn't. It was an overnight thing. And that's when it came to a really big head when we talked. I mean, she didn't have much to say except that she had no intention of stopping using drugs and
Mhm.
that if she was drug tested, she knew she wouldn't pass. And it was just kind of like there was nothing there.
Yeah.
Talking to like somebody whose like soul is gone. She
Yeah.
had no expression. She had no emotion. She
Mhm.
was very matter of fact. And that was really scary. But I
Mhm.
was very adamant, like, you can't use drugs here. I told you you can't live here if you're using. In that moment, I dialed her dad's number on my phone, put it on the bed, and she happened to be going to visit him a couple of days later on the 1st of January for like a week.
Mhm.
And that was just a couple days away. And so when he answered, I told him what was going on. And I told him when she gets on the plane, she's not coming home.
Mm.
And I made that decision in that split second.
Mhm.
She still had no emotion about it,
Yeah.
stammered and stumbled. And of course, he was shocked by that, but he didn't say no, she couldn't. As find out later, he thought I had messed her up. So he was going to fix it. So he was glad to have her, to have that.
Been there.
So, but it was what it was. And then she ended up going to live with her dad basically at the first of the year. So it was the middle of her senior year. She basically disappeared from everybody's lives here. And most people, I would say, never noticed. And that was heartbreaking, but it was also felt so relieving to me because I didn't know how to talk about it or want to talk about it. I was
Right.
completely devastated. I thought that I had just lost both of my children to this man who was their dad, but I still hoped that maybe just being in a different place, different environment, maybe it would change her. And for a while, they kept telling me everything was great. But by early mid February, my daughter, who had always had hair down to her waist, she basically shaved her head. Like she cut all of her hair off out of the blue without telling anyone. And it was a major shock. And it was a major cry for help. Even though,
Mhm.
I mean, as shocked as I was about the hair, she played it off. This is what I wanted. I love
Mhm.
it. Don't you love it? No, but it's your hair.
Mhm.
Do what you want. So, and everyone still kept saying, her dad kept saying, everything's good. We're doing great. She's in school and whatever. But literally a month later, by mid March, we were in crisis. There were incidents with police being called. There were incidents of her running away or attempting to run away.
Mhm.
She was threatening to do all kinds of things. They got into a physical altercation. I mean, and here I am. I'm in Texas. They're in Arizona. So
Right.
I'm not present, but I'm now the mediator between the two of them because she
Mhm.
can't stand him and he's terrified of what she may or may not do. And he even called me crying, which was such a shock to me because
Mm.
he couldn't stand me for all those years, but he still can't, I'm sure. But it became very evident to me, like, we're in crisis. I'm not allowing her to come home. I'm not having it in my home.
Yeah.
She was still using and everybody knew it. She asked to come home. I said no. So I had to get to work and finding some place for her to go. And
Right.
I didn't know anything about anything. This is just all felt so fast and like this whirlwind. And so, when you don't have any experience with treatment, you go down Google and you start to do internet
Mhm.
searches because I didn't know who
Mhm.
to ask. Where did you send your kid? Nobody
Sure.
about this.
Right.
So, and I couldn't think of anybody that I knew that I'd ever experienced this with. So Google was my friend and a lot of prayer. And I found a treatment center that was about 2.5 hours from where they were living in Arizona. It's in Phoenix or Tempe, Arizona. And it was geared toward adolescents. But what really drove me there is number one, they kept coming up on every search. Number two, I made phone calls to multiple places, but they were the only ones that actually called me back and had
Yeah.
conversations with me
Mhm.
and really made me feel like they knew what they were doing, that they said that if I could get her there, they would keep her, not against her will, but they would be able to convince her to stay. Like, this is what they do. And at the time, my daughter just wanted away from her dad. So we had that on our side. She would go anywhere as long as it wasn't anywhere near him. Okay.
Okay.
That we can
We can
work
do
with
that.
Yeah. But I had to rely on them to go and see this place and talk to these people. I didn't get to do any of that in person. I had to
Wow.
just trust that he would make the right judgment of her, whether that was for her or not. And she ended up staying and she went through 6 weeks of inpatient there. She did 8 weeks of outpatient there and 6 months of aftercare. So she was in the program for 10 months before she decided she wanted to move home. And in that 10 months, my education on drugs and alcohol and addiction skyrocketed. I don't know everything, and I'm not going to tell you I know everything and that I did everything perfectly because that's not possible. But everyone's
Right.
situation is different. But I knew at that point, once she got into treatment, I needed to understand what was happening. And so I tried to read every single book. They recommended some books to me.
Great.
I wanted all of it. I wanted all the books. I wanted to just know everything. And I read and read and read and read. And then since I was out of state, they had a really robust, and they still do, a robust parent program.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so they met every Thursday and did parent meetings. And since I was out of state, I was recommended to go to Al-Anon. Okay, well, I didn't know what Al-Anon was. So it took me a while. I did finally go to one nearby. I did not understand anything about it. I was so uncomfortable. I hated it. And I only went one time. And when I talked to my daughter's counselor the next week, I just was like, I don't even know what to do with this. And so she said, Here, I'm going to give you the names and phone numbers to some of the moms here in the program with kids in the program.
Great. Fantastic.
Yeah, so I did. I got 5 names. I called every one of them. I got to hear all their stories. They got to hear mine. I got to realize that these are my people. Like, these are just people just like me. They are normal, average, wonderful parents who love their kids, and this happened to them too.
Yeah.
And that was like life-changing for me. I'm not the only one dealing with this, and it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I'm a terrible person and that I did this to my kid. So one of those parents offered to phone me into the Thursday night meetings so that I could participate.
Oh, that's great.
And so that's how it started for me. And
Wow.
I took her up on that, and I still it still makes me emotional that she offered that because I don't know if it ever occurred to me. I think I was the only parent that was living out of state and wanting to participate. So they didn't have like a video conferencing thing. They weren't doing that then. They eventually did. But I would get phoned into the Thursday night meeting, so I would get to participate. And they were 12-step based. And that's where I really think, I can't imagine trying to go through this without that help, without those people, even though I didn't get to meet them. Except when I would go in person, I went to visit my daughter like 3 or 4 times in person. I got to go to an in-person meeting and actually put faces to names and all of that. It was just beautiful. But one thing that they really encouraged was that the parents get a sponsor and go through the 12 steps, just like the kids were doing. And I really wanted to do that because I wanted to be able to talk to my daughter about what she was learning. And I wanted to understand what was happening.
Yeah.
This works. And so I had to do it for myself. And really, I did it because I wanted to be able to talk to her. But what I didn't
Right.
realize was how powerful the 12 steps is in transforming ourselves. And that
Right.
happened to me as the 12 steps was a tremendous gift to my life.
Yeah.
And it would not be where I am today without it. And my daughter and I wouldn't be where we are today without both of us having walked through that. And I just hope that other parents out there, if you have an opportunity to get into a room with other parents, please do it. Please do it. I believe it's the only thing that saved me.
Yeah. Well, community is mission critical.
Critical.
And we were talking about before we got on the air is that we tend to isolate up because we think we're the only ones, and shame takes us over in terms of we should have been able to see this, change it, control it, all of the things that are complete lies. And so until you begin to step into some form of community and understand, number one, the disease, but also our own recovery is, as you've said, parallel to their recovery. And most people don't think that. They just think if they stop using, I'm going to be fine. If they would just stop using, then we're going to get back to normal.
Right. Not true. Not at all true.
Yeah.
No, and I do see that a lot now. And I think that I thought that too. Like, the problem is hers, it's not mine. And she needs to fix it so we can go back to our normal daily programming. She's going to go back and going to do the things. Well, she's never done anything like anyone else. So she's not going to start now. And she didn't. Our path was completely different, but it is beautiful in its own way. And we were able to rebuild a relationship and start to really understand each other on a level that we've never, ever been able to before. We were able to have conversations about the things that she experienced, growing up, and the questions that she had for me about why I never defended myself, or why the stories were always different. When her dad would say something, I would say the opposite, and then divulged about the sexual abuse that she had endured that I did not know about, which is totally heartbreaking to find out. And we just kind of started back from ground zero together and just got vulnerable. And there's a lot of tears, and there's just a lot of conversation that went on, and a lot of new understanding of each other. It just wouldn't have been possible without recovery. And not only was she sober at the time, but like she had a lot of pain to dive into and heal. And that's a long process. The drugs masked her problem, her pain. So the pain's still there when you take away the drugs. So we've got a lot of work to do, and she was willing to do it eventually. I still host parent meetings every Wednesday night in my office. My daughter's 6.5 years sober. And so the time that I'm talking about, I did this 12 steps 7 years ago. And here I am still working with parents because they're just my favorite group of people ever. And I still love being in the room with people who are at various stages of where I've been and where I still am, It's just wonderful. So,
well, you can see how the transformation of going from hopelessness to hope takes place. And so you want that for other people that are suffering, loving someone who's dealing with addiction. At the same time, I mean, there's lots of generational trauma and addiction issues, and it is so pervasive in our society and culture and so on and so forth. And so to be present for people in the midst of their journey of pain and then healing, I don't know how it gets any better than that, honestly.
I know. I love it when the light bulb finally goes off for a parent, and it just changes everything about them. And they start to just look at everything differently. We get so much into the darkness of it and the desperation and the fear of it. We can get stuck there, and we could stay there for many years if we choose to. But when you come into the rooms, I just don't think you can help but change when you're around your peers who have also experienced similar things, and you start to get to have conversation with them, and you realize how normal and wonderful they are. They didn't do this to their kids any more than you did. And so you can really start to open up and see things differently. And that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. Well, and it takes tremendous courage, to step from behind the wall of shame and judgment and step into vulnerability and revelation.
Yes. I mean, just like when I first walked into that Al-Anon meeting, I felt like an alien and I didn't belong there. And I certainly did, but I just didn't feel like I did. It was just terrifying. I wasn't ready. I guess I needed somebody to hold my hand, and there wasn't anybody to do that. Sometimes when you walk into a group of parents, we'll hold your hand because we just understand. We've been there.
Right. Right. So there's the courage piece, there's the vulnerability piece. And then I'm really curious as to when did the light bulb go off for you that you had your own recovery in this?
It kind of happened when I was in the middle of the 12 steps and just walking through, like, the light bulb went off because I'm thinking, how come this isn't taught in schools? 12 steps is just, it's a way of living your life that is just absolutely beautiful. And that's when the light bulb went off. I loved it so much. I mean, it's not fun looking at your faults and your, what do they call it? Oh, I can't even think of the word. But anyway, having to take a really deep look at yourself and like dig
Mhm,
out the things
mhm,
that maybe you need to change or work on. But making amends to people when you have harmed them, making amends to my daughter, just because
mhm.
there's none of us out here are perfect parents.
Right.
We do the best we can with what we've been given. I fully
Mhm,
believe that all parents do that. And sometimes we have to choose between two really, really bad choices that we don't like, but we got to choose something and we do
right.
the best we can with what we've got in the moment. But there are things that I look back and I'm sorry. I wish I would have done this differently and I can't go
Mhm,
back and change it, but I want you to know I had your best interests at heart. I've
mhm,
always loved you and I always will. And I just, I'm human and I
mhm.
make mistakes and I'm willing to admit it. And really, when your kids hear you say things like that
Yeah.
and you really mean it, it changes your relationship.
Yeah.
But the 12 steps did that.
You were open to the 12 steps.
Yeah.
So there's an openness of heart and mind and spirit to step into around this and to really honestly drop the judgment of the person who's dealing with substance use disorder, much less yourself.
Yeah, I really didn't think twice about it. I just needed to know. I just needed to know. And
Mhm.
then I found out so much more than I ever thought. And then, I ended up sponsoring some other parents, and that was just an amazing experience too to walk with them through it. And I know that the 12 steps, people say it's not for me, it's not for me, but I think you can find some really big value in the 12 steps, whether you are spiritual, religious, whatever it is. People
Mhm,
look at it as being a religious thing. It's really not. And
mhm,
it doesn't have to be if that's not you, but it's just really a way of living your
mhm,
life that you can find hope and love in everything. And you
mhm.
can also have accountability for your own self and your own actions and really foster healthy relationships. And then it moves you to also give back to others the gifts that you've been given. And so
Yeah.
it's really the beauty of the 12 steps. And
Mhm.
so I can't say enough about it. And even the meetings that I do here, they're not 12-step based, but we have a lot of
Mhm,
parents who come in and they go to both Al-Anon and they come to this
mhm,
meeting. This one's parents of addicted loved ones. It's a
mhm.
little bit different, but there's value in all of it because we're all together and we're all learning together and we're all sharing together. Uh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
The power of group is life changing. It's so powerful. And in my situation, I live in a smaller community, certainly than you do. And the options were not what I was looking for because I knew I didn't want to just survive this. I wanted to actually thrive in the midst of it. And so that intentionality, I had to find people who actually would entertain that notion. And so I created it for myself to surround myself with that notion. And so, there's a lot of discussion in terms of the hybrids and how do you actually go about creating community. And I think I find it in your story is that, it was out of deep, deep love for your child, deep, deep love for my child that I was absolutely willing to do the work. And so if you can lay the judgment and the anger and all the things aside and just come up from a place of I love them and I know they're in there somewhere. Because I used to think, okay, there's Sam and then there's Sam in addiction. And they're
Right.
two completely different experiences and people. And so for me, it became, okay, well, who's going to win the battle here? I know I'm going to do my work to recover. And I do think, and I'm curious as to what your experience is, Janelle. I do think that me stepping into my own recovery and it not being tied to his and was a game changer.
Yeah, because the goal is to be okay no matter what their choices are, because
Mhm,
they have to live their own lives
mhm.
and they get to decide if that's how they want to live it. If they want to live it as an addict, then they can do that. I mean, once they hit 18, they're
Mhm.
adult
Right.
and they get to make that choice and it doesn't have to destroy us. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's not what we want for them. Of course, it's
Mhm,
really awful, but we still have purpose and we still have a life to live and we
mhm,
still have people in our lives that we need to pay attention to. And so I think that's what recovery does is it helps you learn how to let go and be
mhm,
okay regardless of the choices of your child or loved one who is suffering with addiction. And we celebrate that sober birthday more than we celebrate her actual birthday, because
Mhm.
without the sober birthday, she wouldn't be alive today. And,
Mhm.
and so it is great. But if she ever slips, and there's no guarantees, I hope that she'll come out of it quickly, or this faster this time than she has before. So, because with more sober time, the stronger that muscle is,
Yes.
of coming
Mhm.
back out of it. And if they have some good in their life and they see
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
they'll want to come back to that. So
Yeah.
they got
Yeah.
to for themselves more than
Mhm.
I want it for them.
Precisely. I mean, we went through 12 rehabs with Sam, and having people around you to see that there's an upward trajectory
Yeah.
with each relapse, they come up higher the
Yeah.
next time. And we tend to, I've heard this so many times, well, we're starting all over again. No, you are not starting all over again. There's some seed in there or seeds in there that they have gathered in the midst of their recovery, even as short as it might be, that are there. And so that's why it's really important to have wise people around you that can see the larger picture of the journey of this all. And I frame Sam's journey as I don't begin to know what his life is in service of, but he's here for a reason. And it may end poorly in terms of him dying because of this disease, but his life will have purpose.
Amen. I
Hmm.
love that.
Hmm.
Yeah. My daughter is 6.5 years sober now. She just turned 25. And 3 years ago, she asked to come and work with me in my practice.
Hmm.
I started my
Wow.
practice after she moved home, and she relapsed. It was horrible. She got sober the second time. And I guess about the time she was 6 months sober that second time, I had been doing what I'm doing now. At that time, I was just doing microcurrent neurofeedback, it's a brain rebalancing
Hmm.
technology that helps your brain function better, and actually is really helpful for people in recovery because their brains have been affected negatively from all
Yeah.
this, and it
Hmm.
helps bring that dopamine system back online faster, and then also helps with a lot of a lot of the mental health things that go along with people who use, like, they have anxiety or depression or PTSD or whatever. It helps with that. So I got to practice on her when I started doing that. And she
Oh,
was
wow.
newly sober that second time. And it was profound, the difference that it made in her and the way she felt
Wow.
about herself and all the things. She slept better, all the things. So she'd experienced it. And that was 6 years ago. But 3 years later, when she came to me and said, I want to do what you do, I couldn't believe it. Like, this was just not something that I ever saw coming. And the beauty is she joined me and she's been with me for 3 years. We're coworkers. I told her, I don't want to be your boss. I'm not
Yeah.
in a relationship, and I don't want to be above you in any way.
Hmm.
You have all the flexibility here to do what you want to do. But she's amazing with people, and it's been fun for me to just watch her grow. I mean, she continues to just grow and
Hmm.
become who she's meant to be. I don't
Hmm.
have control over that, but I
No.
love being able to just witness it and just cheer
Hmm.
her on. And she brings a younger perspective to my business. So, like, I love
Hmm.
talking to her about ideas and things that we do. And that's been really fun. But that's a miracle because I would have told you that would never happen.
Right. That's another thing I want to put a pin in or exclamation point on is miracles happen
Yes.
over and over and over again. And if you can just, even in the darkest moments, hang on to the notion that a miracle can happen. There's no guarantees, and that's how life is. But miracles happen.
They do.
Mhm.
They really do. It's really cool. And I mean, I think this book is another miracle too, because she agreed to be a part of it. And it was really cool. Like, she didn't write it. She's not a writer. She said, Mom, I don't have time to do that. And so what I did was I interviewed her for her part.
Great. That's
I
fantastic.
transcribed her words, for every single chapter. And I love that here we are, where she's 6.5 years sober. Like, she's moved on with her life. Sobriety
Hmm.
is for part of her life, like a major
Hmm.
part of her life. And it's just how she lives her life now. And we don't have to talk about it every day. And she doesn't go to meetings all the time. And,
Hmm.
it's beyond that. But she's
Hmm.
open to sharing her experience with others and being somebody that is relatable to so many young people. I mean, she was
Yeah.
16 when she went to treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been sober since she was 18. And that's a really tough time to
Mm-hmm.
be sober when all
Yep.
the kids are out partying and that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And she's had to take a completely different path with
Right.
that and protect herself. And she's done really well with that. So having her help me with this book and be a part of it for other people to hopefully resonate with, find hope in, choose restoration and recovery in, that's my hope. And then, a lot of our story has bits and pieces that I think most people who've walked this path can relate to in some
Mm-hmm.
way. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, it's not a blueprint of how to do it because everybody's different, but
Right.
something, a way that you could do differently, maybe.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about how the book got birthed. I mean,
Yeah.
because you're not an author,
No.
right? And so you come up with this idea that I should write a book. And you sound
Right.
I'd be like, really?
My
That's what
husband
I'm
says
going to be
that too.
doing.
My husband says that to me every time I go, I'm going to go back to school and do this. And he's like, okay, whatever. I came home one day and said, I know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to heal brains for a living. And he's like, okay, I don't even know what you're talking about, but whatever. And here, this is what I do. So anyway, so once my daughter got sober the second time and we got to work finding her support here because she had moved back to Texas and we just
Mhm.
did not plan well for that transition.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know, she was cured in my mind. There's still a lot for me to learn.
Yeah.
And that clearly wasn't the case. And so we had to roll up our sleeves and get to work after that and find support here. And for both of us, really, I needed in-person support too at that time. So we did that.
Mhm.
But we did a podcast and that was kind of on a whim too. I had the opportunity I had gotten an email or something and somebody was looking for, hey, if you've been through something hard, email us and maybe we'll have you on our podcast. So I was like, we'll see. So I sent the email. I did talk to my daughter and said, I did this, but we don't have to do it if you don't want to do it. I don't even know if they'll want us on, but they actually did. And which was kind of surprising because it's a topic that's hard to talk about on a mainstream podcast. And so, but she was like, yeah, mom, I'd love to do it. So we did it and it went really well. It was really good. And it was our first time. And then a little bit later on, I got the idea of maybe we should write a book, but I don't want it to be just my perspective.
Yeah.
I think the value is in knowing the fuller picture. And so
Mhm.
I wanted to write it and then I wanted her to write hers. And then I thought, let's put it together. Let's not even talk about what we're writing and then just put it together,
Mhm.
blindly, however it
Mhm.
went. And she came to me not long after I had the idea and she said, Mom, I think we should write a book and it should be mine and yours and we'll put it together. I mean,
That's so great.
same idea. So I started writing. And I'm not a terrible writer, but I don't consider myself an author at all. But she started writing, but she struggled. She's like, Mom, this really isn't my thing. So I thought, well, maybe you can just speak it. We can
Mhm.
transcribe it, whatever. And so I
Mhm.
ended up writing. In fact, I wrote about half of the book about 5 years ago. So, but then I put it down because I didn't know anything about publishing or like how
Sure.
this gonna ever get
Right.
into the world. So it was kind of like, okay. And then I was starting my practice and went back and got my master's degree and I was just doing all kinds of things for my business. So it just kind of got put on the back burner. And then a year ago, last summer-ish, I got an email from a publisher called Hope Books and they were looking for somebody to write a chapter for one of their collaborative projects. And I thought,
Mhm.
well, I can write a chapter. So I volunteered to do that and I did that, but I wrote that one about my son. And then through that process, they were encouraging, I think, all of us authors to write a book,
Mhm.
what their story, whatever. Of course, I knew I had this story that I wanted to tell.
Yeah.
So I signed up to write the book. And when I went back and dug it out, it was really half written and it was really good. I was really pleased with what I had written. I couldn't remember.
That's awesome.
So I
Yeah.
finished that and then I divided it into chapters and then I interviewed Reagan for each chapter so that it would kind of coincide and then transcribed her words for her chapter. So It is. Every chapter you get both sides of what was going on. You get all the ugliness, and it's very honest and raw, and there's a lot of emotion in there, but I can just tell you the end is good. So, like, hang in there. The end is good,
Yes.
but it's a tough story.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I haven't read a story yet that hasn't brought me to tears multiple times because the pain and heartache of this disease, and honestly, the pain and heartache of being a human. And those of us who have chosen to kind of, what I would say is, see the pain as launching pad into up leveling our own humanity and our own consciousness and our own skills as a human that can witness and participate in not only our own pain, but others' pain too.
Yeah, I can't read my own book without crying. I just can't. So
Mhm.
if I ever do an
Mhm.
audiobook, it will be me reading it because I can't get through it.
I
Those
wouldn't get through it.
feelings,
Yeah.
those emotions are real and they come right back when you dive back into
Mhm.
that story. It is,
Mhm.
is something that I don't wish on anyone, but I know there's a lot of parents out there that are suffering.
Yeah.
They need help and they need
Yeah.
help.
Yes. Yeah, they do. And so I love the notion that it is both of your perspectives on this journey. And there's, I think, tremendous power in having both perspectives. I do personally hope at some point I will be able to have Sam on the podcast with me. And I do think that at some point he will be ready because we all have our own journeys. And so we talked about this a little bit before we got on is the courage that it takes to be vulnerable and tell this kind of story because most people aren't telling their stories. Most people are thinking they're alone in this. They didn't see this coming. They are ill prepared to handle it. They don't know, like, who am I ever going to talk to about this? Because all of things.
I
Mhm.
thought that too in the beginning, but you just got to push through that because there's beauty on the other side. And the first time that I shared, and I didn't share with anyone for a really long time, I'd
Mhm.
say months after I kicked my daughter out, I don't remember anyone even noticing that she was gone. But at this time, as much as that hurt, it scared me even more to have to answer questions about why she wasn't there. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, oh, good.
Nobody's noticing.
Yeah, nobody's noticing,
Yeah.
and I don't have to
Okay.
talk about it, and because I didn't want to, I didn't know how at
Yeah.
all,
Mhm.
and so I understand that, but talking about it, in fact, it came from the photographer that we hired to do her graduation photos, so I didn't publicly say anything until after it was a full year after she went into treatment, finally got her GED, and we decided to do the graduation photos. And we did the
Mhm.
graduation photos and we incorporated her recovery symbols. She had chips and she had a monkey fist for her treatment center. And we incorporated those into the photos, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Mhm.
This really was her journey. This was for us. It was for her and for us. It wasn't for anyone else. But the
Mhm.
pictures came back they were so beautiful
Mhm.
that she wanted me to show them, and so but I talked to her about it, "Is it okay?" And then I didn't feel genuine if I, only posted the ones without the sobriety stuff, the recovery stuff, so I did
Mhm.
post a mix of them and kind of alerted the world on social media that this was her journey and how
Mhm.
it wasn't like anyone else's, and it wasn't what we wanted it to be, but here we
Mhm.
are, and she's glowing and she's beautiful and this is what recovery can look like, and that was kind of the gist of the post, and
Mhm.
so I posted it and then I left work. I was at my office and I left work and I panicked and thought, "What have I done? I have
Mhm.
just opened her up to all kinds of criticism and ugliness, and I didn't know what people were gonna think or say, 'cause this was new, and so I vowed, as soon as I get home, I'm deleting it. I'm gonna maybe nobody will see it." Well, by the time I stopped 20 minutes down the road and had to get gas, I looked at my phone and the outpouring of love and support was absolutely overwhelming, and it was
Mhm.
beautiful, and I realized
Mhm.
at that point that there was power in sharing the story. Too many
Mhm.
people were suffering in silence,
Yes.
and the people who messaged us, I had no idea that they were dealing with this as well with
Mhm.
somebody that they love, and it wasn't always a child, but it somebody in your
Mhm.
life, and, it's just devastating, and so that really encouraged me
Mhm.
to talk about it and to not be afraid of it and to not feel shame about it because
Mhm.
other people needed to have a lifeline. And so if I could be that for just one person, it was worth it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
nothing horrible came from sharing it with the world. We haven't received anybody who said anything ugly, but everyone's just been really supportive and relatable with it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think people will be surprised to know that. Like if you've just talked about it,
For
they don't,
sure.
people are really going to judge you.
Yeah.
There'll be
Well,
those probably, but hopefully they just stay away from you. They can be judgmental over there. They're not your
well, I
people.
mean, there's going to be people, I mean, we dealt with it in our family. There's going to be people that are judging. And so your healing is more important than that. But in a bigger picture perspective, when I was getting ready to do the TED Talk, I was relaying statistics. And one of the statistics was there's 150 million people in this country that love someone who's dealing with addiction. 150 million people. So, I mean, honestly, you can turn right or you can turn left, and one of them is going to be in your boat,
Yep.
whether it's a brother or a mom or a dad or a grandparent or a child or a sib or whatever that is.
Yeah.
It is everywhere. And that's when you begin to realize that, oh, wow, I am so not alone. And there are varying degrees of healthiness in terms of how we navigate this, and who you surround yourself with is who you become. So my choice was I didn't want to just survive this. I actually wanted to thrive in the midst of this because I have a life I love and a work that I love and friends that I love. I wasn't willing to let his disease take me into the darkness. Well, that's a very intentional decision
Yes, it is.
that I have a notion of a million people thriving. And I want people to wake up to the decision that they can make along those lines. And I'm so grateful that it's a decision that you made. It's a decision that Reagan made, that you both put this beautiful book together to tell both sides of the story. And the courage, I want to just acknowledge the courage that it takes in order to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
It does.
Mhm.
It's a little scary releasing a book about my life. I'm human. I'm not perfect. And it's all in there.
Yeah. And so we're kind of coming up against the edge of our time together. That went really, really fast. I do want people to know what's the title of your book? Where can they get your book? How can they get a hold of you if they want to?
So it looks like this big butterfly on the cover.
Great. I love
Transformation.
the butterfly.
Yeah. I mean, this just tells the whole story, right? It's called Losing Her, Finding Us, A Mother's Fight, A Daughter's Journey, and the Road to Recovery. And you can get it on Amazon. You can get it Barnes and Noble, and you can get it on Goodreads. So,
Great.
yes, anywhere books are sold. I'm hearing it's in some libraries too. So you might be able to
Awesome.
get that there, which is pretty cool.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and if you can't find it, reach out to me. I'll send you a copy.
Okay. So how do people get a hold of you?
I have a website. It's called ourbeautifulrecovery.com. And so you can read all about us there and order the books from there too. And it has my contact information there. Also, my business website is tmcbrainhealthcenter.com. And that is located in Houston. So you can go there and you can read about what we do here for work and
Mhm.
give back to others. And if you're local, make an appointment and come see us.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So final question. What are the top 3 things that you do religiously, non-negotiable, to take care of yourself?
Oh gosh, I do regular massages. I really like pedicures.
Okay.
I read as much as I can. Reading is still I'll read. I can't help but devour books.
Mhm.
And then we put a pool in the backyard 5 years ago, and Sunday pool day is non-negotiable. That is where you will find me
Great.
swimming in my pool. Whether sometimes there's music playing, sometimes I need silence and I just need to be with the butterflies and be outside and be in the
Right.
sun. And that is, yeah, non-negotiable.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Those 4 things. I do more, but those are good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a big believer in you have to build your thriving war chest, so to speak, to
Yes.
take care of yourself. And so I'm always curious as to what other people do. So if you do some of these things or don't do some of these things, people, pick something to do. 1 thing, 2 things, 3 things to do. So you begin to take your life back and start on a path of thriving. And I just want to say, so grateful for Janelle and your story and who you are. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Great. Okay. Take care. Till next time.
Okay.
Thrive.
Bye.